The COVID pandemic caused tremendous hardship and pain for millions of our fellow Americans and countless people around the world. Now, after years of lies and censorship and cover-ups, the American people deserve transparency, truth, and accountability. The tactics that were used to hide the truth are straight from the deep state playbook. Politicized, self-serving leaders like Dr. Fauci covered up their own wrongdoing and abuses of power, manipulated intelligence, lied to Congress, and undermined a duly elected president by restricting his access to the vital facts he needed to keep the country safe. It's time you know the truth.
And that's former Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard dropping bombshell documents on her final day in the role, accusing Dr. Anthony Fauci of manipulating intelligence, misleading Congress about the COVID lab leak theory, saying Fauci misused taxpayer money for gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab and then lied about it. Joining me now is Kentucky Congressman James Comer. He's the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for being here. You led a multi-year investigation into Fauci and the origins of COVID. You've also questioned Fauci in a congressional hearing. What is your reaction to this? Would you bring him back in now for more testimony?
Well, this is more evidence of what we already knew. Dr. Fauci lied. He caused a great deal of pain for every American and most people around the world. The decisions that were made by the leadership at the time in America were based solely on what Dr. Fauci was saying, and now we know what we've always suspected, that he completely lied. He lied about funding gain-of-function research. He lied about the origins of COVID. He just continued to lie throughout the entire COVID debacle. You know, the decisions were made about the vaccines. If we had known at the time that this didn't come from a wet market, this was man-made, would that have had an impact on the type of vaccine that Americans were given that we now know probably has caused a lot of health problems as a result of the COVID vaccine? So we already did the investigation, and we already have criminal referrals sitting on the desk at the Department of Justice. The Senate did the same. The Senate Homeland Security also has criminal referrals dating back a year and a half on Dr. Fauci. We also, my committee, the Oversight Committee, did an investigation of the pardon that Joe Biden gave, all the pardons. And we concluded that Joe Biden wasn't at the table. There were no meetings with Joe Biden. The Constitution's clear. The president has sole authority to grant pardons, but there's no evidence that at the time that President Biden was even involved in the pardon process. They were signed by the auto pen, but there's no evidence. And that was based on all the depositions we had with all the key people in the White House during the Biden administration. There's no evidence Joe Biden participated in the decision-making of the pardon process. So there's more than enough evidence, and what Tulsi did is outstanding. It provides even more evidence for the Department of Justice to begin taking steps to hold Dr. Fauci accountable.
Yeah, so do you think that the pardon is legitimate if, in fact, it was done by the auto pen? I mean, that's the question now.
No,
because yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think it's so much the auto pen as it is the fact that there were never any meetings that Joe Biden had with his staff on these pardons. The only pardon that Joe Biden signed was for his son, Hunter Biden. But let's take the auto pen off the table. I know there's a lot about the auto pen. I don't want that to be the defense. The defense is there were never any scheduled meetings on his calendar. There was not a single person involved in the pardon process, in the decision-making on who authorized the auto pen that ever met with Joe Biden and discussed the individual pardon. So there's no evidence Joe Biden had any decision-making in the pardon process. So I think that alone is more than enough evidence to declare all the pardons issued by Joe Biden in the last day of his presidency null and void.
Yeah, I mean, this is quite extraordinary. I mean, here you have Anthony Fauci, the one person who knew everything. He was in charge of all this bioweapon money. He actually knew what was happening and where, and he knew that we had funded gain-of-function research. He knew that he used taxpayer dollars, and he actually did not come clean about it. in President Trump's term. President Trump, there is the president. He doesn't know what's coming at us. He knows, Fauci knows everything that the government has been doing in terms of funding this. And by the way, we knew very early in 2020 that this was not natural, that this was, in fact, engineered from a lab. We heard so from so many lawmakers. Tom Cotton was with me in March and in February of 2020. And here's what he told me. Watch this.
This virus did not originate in the Wuhan animal market. Several of the original cases did not have any contact with that food market. The virus went into that food market before it came out of that food market. So we don't know where it originated. We also know that just a few miles away from that food market is China's only biosafety level 4 super laboratory that researches human infectious diseases. Now, we don't have evidence that this disease originated there, but because of China's duplicity and dishonesty from the beginning, we need to at least ask the question to see what the evidence says. And China right now is not giving any evidence on that question at all.
What do they do at this super lab?
It's unclear, Maria. China is obviously very secretive about what happens at the Wuhan laboratory. That's why it's so important that we at least ask the questions and get the evidence.
So, Mr. Chairman, there you have Tom Cotton telling us in very simple, in no confusing terms whatsoever, that this likely came from a lab. So we all knew that, and yet after that, we notice that Fauci starts talking with the intelligence community increasingly. In fact, the intelligence community flagged an interview that I did with Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. And this was as part of the IC's investigation. Here's what he said on that day. Watch this. Rand Paul.
What we've discovered is that Anthony Fauci was destroying federal records and was encouraging other people to destroy federal records. That is a crime. He testified to the House a year ago and said he wasn't doing that. That's a crime, to perjure himself. And so we will bring him back. I've asked him to come and testify this fall. If he doesn't come voluntarily, we will subpoena him. The question is he immune because of the pardon? I think that needs to be challenged in court.
And, Congressman, that's exactly what you want to do, challenge it.
Yeah, the evidence is there. We spent many hours, Maria, bringing in the chief of staff for the Biden administration, the deputy chief of staff, all the key people around the president, Jill Biden's chief of staff, who probably had more influence than anyone on the pardon process down the stretch. And none of them could ever testify under oath that they ever had any discussions with President Biden about the pardons. I mean, that is overwhelming evidence. So the work has already been done. I can't for the life of me understand why the Department of Justice won't do anything about Dr. Fauci. The pardon, not just Fauci's pardon, a lot of pardons could be declared null and void. The Biden family, you've got Adam Schiff and Jamie Raskin, all the January 6th committee, they all got pardons. They can be thrown out. Because, again, there's no evidence Joe Biden participated in that. So I think that what Tulsi did puts more fuel on the fire, more evidence. And look, our children are still suffering the consequences in public schools today because they didn't go to school for over a year. They missed out on a whole year of learning because of Dr. Fauci's lies about COVID and where it originated from and the severity of it. Now we know this was a major cover-up. I would argue the biggest cover-up in American history. And, if something's not done, this will happen again, Maria.
Well, countless lives lost, seniors doomed, children doomed, as you just said. They were out of school. Do you believe, had Fauci come clean and said, yes, the U.S. has been funding gain of research. Yes, I also directed money there. We thought that it would be better to do it this way, that lives would have been saved?
I do. And I think the vaccine would have been constructed differently. I think the whole history of the last 10 years would have been different if Dr. Fauci had just come clean. And again, we're still paying the price today. Look how much money Congress wasted on PPP loans and things to keep the economy stimulated during COVID. All because one man lied, one man who had too much power, and we have an opportunity to hold him accountable, and hopefully the Trump administration will do that.
Wow, just extraordinary stuff, Congressman. Thanks so much. We'll be following your work, Mr. Chairman. James Comer. Stay with us. We'll be right back.